Hello once again, welcome to Capital Council. Hafiz Anadi here. Recently, a government made a request or a demand to MCMC to send some data, sensitive data, I would say. But MCMC then, after a few days, said that it's not that sensitive. We can use this to identify an individual. There's a lot of things going back and forth here. With statement from governments says other thing, and then telco would say the other, and so on and so forth. Adi, what is happening?
Okay, well, in about today, this month of June, last month in April, the Malaysian Communications and Multimedia Commission (MCMC), under the government's directive, has apparently sent letters to major telecom operators, which is your Silcom DG, your Maxis, your U-Mobile, and whatnot, asking for anonymized mobile usage data for January through March of 2025, if I'm reading this report correctly. And this includes things like call logs, IP call records, timestamps, and GPS. And apparently this is part of the government's mobile phone data initiative, the MPD initiative, aimed at enhancing policy decisions related to infrastructure, urban planning, tourism, and ICT. Now, this already triggers straight away a conversation on what the data that the government is requesting for. Apparently, it is used to help streamline evidence-based decision-making so that they can improve multimedia communications infrastructure. But also, they have that immediately when anything data is shared, you have this whole argument of what kind of data is being given here? Is it truly anonymized? Is it truly anonymous? And would it be subjected to strict cybersecurity efforts to make sure it doesn't get leaked? Because, well, we're no stranger to any kind of government platform. We've seen that before a few times. MySejahtera being one of them, with data being compromised somehow. And, well, I understand the idea of having a data-driven infrastructure planning, having all these data to prime and refine your initiatives. Because here, let's take for example here in Sabah, right? We don't have a lot of data coverage here. We don't have a lot of planning. We don't have a lot of data on the context here, other than it's just not good. So the government all needs to have all this information so that they can make informed decisions here. And this is a standard practice, right? However, you have to be able to balance it out with mitigating any chance of mass surveillance creeping in, right? Without any legal oversight. Who's to say that what they say on the surface, yes, this data would be used for this, good intentions, right? But you never know what happens behind the scenes. Is there any mechanism for transparency and accountability in that? That is the conversation that is important here.
Adi, one of the big reasons why it's become a big issue right now, Adi, because we know about this request due to a leak information. It's not like MCMC gone and, one day and make a PC and then, this is what we're going to ask from these big telcos. This is blah, 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 blah. No, it's due to a leak information. And then 2 or 3 days after that, only then MCMC, I'm just going to read from here, a sample actual data that might receive from them. Anonymized subscribers identifier, unique ID, date and time of start of transaction, latitude, structure and transmitter, latitude again, structure and transmitter, data type call, internet protocol data record, type of network, 2G, 4G or 5G, and the country identifier to distinguish between local and international subscriptions. So these are the data that they say, okay, whatever, and so on. This is to be submitted to do DOSM, the Department of Statistics, all right? To part of that. Okay, so no problem. A lot of people doing. What have they been doing this whole time? Surely, why this time there's a change in this? And based on what they posted here, anonymized subscribers identifier, they can just easily go back and then, who are these people? CRM, if there's something anomaly or whatever that the government wants, because there's still, you can be traced back into it. Let's say someone, with the GPS shows that someone, if, at night, you are at this particular location, means you stay there. That's your house. During the day, if you're at one place, that that means that's your office. So by identify this, I already know your address. I don't have to know your my card number here, but I already know where your address is. I know where you work at, so I can just put the two and two together. So of course, government has more than that. So still, the creeping in surveillance kind of idea is still not clear, because what MCMC done here is just why there's no transparency. That's the thing. Fine, you want to do it for DOSM. No one disputing that. The one is the manner they're doing it. This is a leak information. Only then we know. Only that they come up with a statement. Only then, after a statement been given, these are still not satisfactory, because there's no guarantee here by MCMC that it will not lead to Black Mirror kind of surveillance that we all see in Netflix show. So of course, the concern by the people is that let's get us involved, not just the telco. Telco is just keeping it safe in their storage. We are the owner. The people are the owner of the data. If you want them, you should consult the people as well. Do a town hall. Do whatever you need. Need to be explained in a more detailed manners. Then it should be proceed or whatever. Otherwise, this whole thing is a dodgy exercise by the government, try to bulldoze their way, and hoping no one would pay attention to this due to PKR Rafizi Nur Iza thing, because this is not new. It was the request already met months ago, and then only now it was leaked, and finally we know about it. Dodgy, right, Adi?
Extremely dodgy, and I feel it's definitely out of touch with the whole digital landscape that we have here. They say anonymized data, right? Anonymized data isn't always anonymous, right? Just because you take away the names and the IC numbers doesn't mean you're safe. When you combine location, time, behavior, right, it becomes very easy actually to find your location, right? And there was this MIT study back in 2013, right, where you only need 4 points of time and location. For example, this spot at this day at this time, then later this spot at this time. It was enough to identify 95% of people in a data set of I'm reading here 1.5 million users, right? And it doesn't take much. It really doesn't. So that means you don't need names. It's easy enough to pinpoint where you are, what you do, your routines, and that is it, right? That is the danger of data, right? And if the government says that just because it's anonymous, it's somehow foolproof, it's somehow a fake leaf, that shows an out of touch perception of how they want to go about managing data, the digital governance ecosystem that they want to develop here, right? Not to mention, we have trust deficits with digital initiatives, right? So I agree with you, Hafiz. You need to have that kind of buy-in. You need to have that public support to explain, to have this conversation, like town hall, with the people, with the rakyat, on the particular use of the data, how it is managed, and then you give up reports on it, like how it is managed. I don't know how you want to do transparency or accountability mechanism on it. I'm sure somebody has already developed it and has already proposed it and brought it up. Let's hopefully we can the government takes attention to that. But we've seen like this trust deficit is not without precedent, right? Like I mentioned before, My Sejahtera, right, is one of them. We've had private chats from ministers being leaked. We've had all kinds of leaks which were supposed to be confidential and private between people coming out just like that. It's easy. I'm pretty sure it's very easy to trace anybody in general. So this, the issue is one is of utility, yes, but also public trust, right? Technocrats often overlook this because they see policy they can see policy in a very ivory tower perspective. I mean, I can attest to that as well personally. So, but it's hard to also reconcile that with on the ground concerns, very real concerns here. So this is a part of, okay, you have a good intention, but we need your execution to be flawless here, especially something as very sensitive as this. The government talks about, puts out all these advertisements about protecting your data, securing your accounts, securing your whatever. But we need to put that into practice within our own infrastructure, digital infrastructure, and our own how we organize the usage of data here.
This kind of practice idea reminds me of there was a case a few years ago. There was a banker who steals like a few cents for every customer that the bank had a transaction with. So they put some kind of a line of coding in the bank system, and then it would steal like few cents or whatever. So you don't notice. The point is you don't notice this few cents was taken away from your bank account. All right. So and what happened is, of course, bank has like millions, if not billions, of transactions every year or every month. Then it turns out like it's a siphon like close to $1 billion at that time. So going back to this case, Adi, our data on our own, like an individual level per se, doesn't mean much for most people, for most average Joe out there. Like, we have nothing to hide, we just live normal life, whatever. Maybe some high profile individual, maybe they have something at stake. But as collectively, like you mentioned, like big data, it's so valuable, more than gold, more than whatever, because that's the what you call the data mining, as you can see trends or whatever. So out of all parties that we can trust with our storage of our data privacy, government is not one of it. It doesn't come to our mind. You mentioned the case with MySejahtera and whatnot. It's not just MySejahtera. There's a lot, countless of others. Cyber attacks happen with the government as well. So what's guarantee by Fahmi Fadzil that can he say to the people that it will be taken care of? If you want more data, of course, engagement is very important here. Finding out from a leak information is not a good start. Let's start there. So Fahmi Fadzil should not, downplay when journalists asking a real concern about all this. He should not just passing the ball to MCMC or everything. You as a minister has to, stand firm ground. And if you want something for particular reason, tell us and be frank about it. And just don't hide between like this is for the tourism, so that we can more targeted who are this coming in, won't boost the tourism. No one is disputing that. So please, Fahmi Fadzil, if you want to be more likable after PKR elections recently, be a good minister in terms of, because your portfolio is very crucial. It involves each and every one of us. It's as young as, I don't know, SPM leavers, I guess, because they already have their own mobile phone and registered under their name. So it will be a huge thing if they request something like this from telcos. And of course, telco already gave in to the request. Of course, this is not their fault. It's requested by the government. I don't know legally, can they say no to this? Maybe we need a legal expert. If you're watching this, if you're a lawyer, if you know about this, please comment down below. Is it illegal if a telco says no to the government request or demand? So back to this privacy data again. Hopefully, moving forward, MCMC will do what is right demanded, because there's a lot of questions about legality, about transparency that needs to be addressed. I don't know what could be better in terms of handling this at the moment, because we never had something like this before. So whatever moving forward will be a precedent to the future. So if this is okay, they can bulldoze their way. They can imagine in the next 5-10 years, the world of data that have the government just like at a flick of a switch, they can have it all, and it's not safe in the government's hand.
Yeah, I think when you mentioned the long-reaching arm of the government here, it reminds me last year when the government tried to enact a what do you call it, social media licensing policy on social media platforms, where if you are a social media if you are a social media platform with over 8 million users, then you have to obtain what is called an APSPC, Application Service Provider Class License. And this license requires, is supposed to boost protection and regulation by holding platforms accountable for content data. It was supposed to hold these platforms like for fraud, scams, and other kinds of, and avoid from putting out explicit content, right? The issue here is that asking platforms to you're blaming the platforms here for having having this out there instead of, let's say, and then it makes users very cautious here. For us, let's say example, we were okay. Comedian Council is a podcast, so we're a content creator, right? So that means it has a chilling effect on, let's say, free expression, because this what the license means is that there's going to be a standard of regulation that the government will impose on the platform, meaning certain things cannot be posted or distributed. Certain types of digital content cannot be distributed by an arbitrary regulation that the government has set. Essentially, it means more moderation, it's more content control, more censorship, and platforms will have to comply by this to avoid any kind of penalties. So that means they have the government has every right to say that, okay, this goes against our policy here, remove it. They can tell the platform to remove it, remove that. And how it affects, let's say, creators like us is that we have to be careful what we say, because we have to be careful what we say because we know how Malaysia can be. But it means that we have to be more we have to self-censor ourselves even more on particular specific topics. We see how trigger happy the government can be when it comes to censorship or any dissenting views, right? And we don't need more of that on platforms that a lot of people rely upon to get their daily news, to get their daily updates. For example, if the government says, okay, we're going to hold Facebook accountable, we're going to penalize Facebook for letting news regarding I don't know, PK elections. Okay, fine. We seem to not be able to get over the PK elections, but I hope you know what I mean. Hafiz, is that the government can say, okay, we don't want
Yes.
your platform to talk about that. They arbitrarily decide that, oh, no one should cover it. So that means no one can talk about it, right? It's going to be moderated, and if the platform will try to do their best to avoid any kind of penalties, but it could also uh, have that trickle effect of relating to this data collection, is that when you have licensing for platforms, that means you're also going to you're going to have to collect and store more user data and creator data locally. So this also means that it's another vector for personal data to be exposed for government scrutiny, for government whatever government wants to do with it, right? And this could discourage how we think about content, how we think about being authentic content itself. And it just shows that alongside this whole request for data, right, the lack of transparency, the lack of engagement, I feel, right, MCMC here, it seemed to be going on a very outdated approach. It is an approach that is not people centric. It is an approach that seems to be heavily reliant on government control, that the government knows best when it comes to these issues. Of course, we have massive issues with social media regulations, right? That I'm really not saying that we cannot regulate. It's just the how of it. It's the how do we regulate the social media content and digital content is important and has to be done through a collective effort that is representing the people of Malaysia, because we consume content, digital content, in a particular kind of way, right? So that means the policy has to reflect the patterns of the people that do consume it. And I don't think Malaysians are very dissenting, to be honest. I think we're very about, even online, we're quite etiquette abiding social media digital users, right? Of course, we have the often odd things here and there we can see, right? But I think overall we have shown to be quite responsible with it, right? So the government should trust us with that and just snub out the outliers and focus more on consumer protection, data protection, or even focusing on minimizing apprehending any vectors of scams, because that seems to be the rationale that they are having. Of course, that's the rationale they say in public, but we never know behind closed doors. They might say that we need to have a control over particular content we find is diluting the moral integrity of the people or whatever like that, right? The government cannot babysit the people in this regard.
Adi, I just wanted to bring a parallel comparison with something also happening in the weekend, which is the Fahmi Reza case where he got barred from leaving the country. Now, why I'm mentioning this, we're not going to do episode, so we're just going to a little bit mention about this. Is that the after the he mentioned about that he was barred from leaving the country, and looking at the record of the immigration says that the direction is from the royal police, and then when they go to the royal police. Royal police says that there's no such request was made by the police. Now, Adi, this is one data about one person. How are we going to trust the government within the agency, inter-agency, immigrations, whatever, tourism, they say they're going to do about it? How are we going to trust to handle such a big data if they cannot even handle one person's data? So, yes, of course, the confusions that cost Fahmi Reza his flight ticket to Singapore, what could happen to a lot of millions of Malaysians as well? So, this should be a big question mark that needs to be asked government when it comes to dealing with data. Of course, again, Prime Minister says that there's an error here, whatever, but the damage is done. And Fahmi Reza is trying to sue the government, and let's see and keep our popcorn filled, because that story is not going to end anytime soon. But all I'm saying here is that when it comes to data, government has to be transparent and engagement has to be made. Otherwise, it's very dodgy. You're trying to sneak in like that and get whatever that you want to do. I mean, sure, the hiding behind all this to improve the tourism or whatnot, it's not gonna work. Not gonna work 10 years ago. Not gonna work in the next 10 years as well. I think that's it, Adi, for this episode with MCMC demand from the government to get some raw data from the telco. Next up, what are we gonna talk about? You're muted.
We've talked about the long arm of the state interfering with a lot of our own public-private lives. We are talking about its greatest practitioner in Malaysian history. Who do you think that is? If you have any ideas, well, stay tuned. And if you want to know who it is, stay tuned for the next episode.
Please stay in the next episode. It's going to be a fun one.